Hey, my name is Rachelle Brockman and I'm an artist. I also have a business where I do training and development, so I have a 50-50 career right now. My background of my parents is my mom has an Irish background and my father is Métis. And so growing up, we had this really interesting mix of cultures, and as an adult now, having those cultural impacts, I love investigating my childhood and thinking about the memories that I have. Like, I used to sit on my grandfather's knee and he would sing these little jigs, and there was dancing and there was this music, and I'm like, where did that come from? That's so Métis. And yet it wasn't necessarily something that we really thought about all the time. So now as an adult, people say, oh, you're Métis, what? And it's one of those things that's almost hard to explain to people, because you know you are, and it's in your heart, and it's in part of the way you grew up, but it's not something that people see all the time. And growing up in PA in the north, it was incredible because nature was just such a huge part of my life from both sides of my family. We would go pack up the car and hit this sand back roads in the forest, and we would have like little gun practicing against trees, and my mom would pack a snack, and then we would pick berries, we would pick mushrooms, we would pick mint in the forest, and we would just have the best day ever just being in nature, being in the forest. And I just think that's probably the #1 way I can relate to my culture and relate to my family and the way I grew up, is through freedom and through nature. I had this quiet, beautiful, artistic side from my mom, but then I had this wild and crazy, curious side from my dad, where it was about exploring and looking under rocks and getting on my bike and going, and this sense of curiosity and awe that I was raised with, to be in nature and to not just be, but to see it, to learn about it, to be part of it. And so there's a story around every corner. And so when I see something and it's telling me a story, that's the only way I can describe it. Things tell me stories all the time. It could be a tree, it could be an old barn that's weathered and layers of paint, 4, 5, 6 layers of paint. And I'm like, oh my gosh, think about all those families that live there. Think about all those stories that old barn is holding on to. And I just feel and hear stories from all these people and things around me, and then it makes me want to paint them. I don't need to know the stories, even though as I'm painting, I'm thinking and I'm imagining. Just like my family, there's music, there's color, there's life, there's sometimes tears and heartache, but they're beautiful stories. And so when I'm painting and putting those images into a story on the canvas, I'm hoping that the receivers, the listeners, the onlookers have a little glimpse at the depth of what might be there in that story, and they imagine for themselves the story. My goal would be that my art is viewed from a distance first, and it's obvious from a distance what it is. Then as you get closer, it starts to become less obvious and becomes a little more complicated and messy. I could call it that. But that's the beauty of impressionism to me. And then you get up close and you realize this is really kind of a jumble. It's a jumble of ideas and color and energy and emotion. And I love that about impressionism, and it's something that I strive towards in my art, is this from a distance, oh yeah, wow, beautiful. And then up close, I see people's faces sometimes and it's confusion, or you hear the whole, oh, I could do that, or all of those kinds of regular things. And it makes me smile because I love knowing that some of the chaos and the emotion and the texture and the technique that I use is far from perfect. It's more me, it's more realistic of life in general and these stories that I'm trying to tell. It's messy. People are messy and stories are messy, and the weather can be messy, and yet from a distance you know exactly what I'm trying to say. I can't help, no matter where I'm at, no matter what's going on in the world. I'm a realist, don't get me wrong, but I can go to a happy place. I can go to a place of beauty and a place of joy and a place of positive conversation, even through difficulty. And so for me, art and life are completely intertwined, and they make life good. Art makes life good. Paintings and sculptures and videos make life good. My message to the world that hopefully comes through my art is to forget about certainty and opinions and hard stances, and to start to be more curious. And that sense of awe and wonder and those stories that are waiting to be told. We don't have to agree with what we hear. We don't have to have the same perspective as what we see, but they exist nonetheless. And if we can be more curious about the world around us, I think we would be better off.